Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping into a really exciting field today, how doctors are using these amazing new devices to fix problems in the aorta, the body's main highway for blood.
Exactly. We're moving beyond traditional open surgery here, talking about minimally invasive stuff.
Right. And our guide for this, we're drawing heavily from chapters in the latest Rutherford's Vascular Surgery and Endovascular Therapy, 10th edition, I believe.
That's the one. It's pretty much the gold standard reference in our field.
So yeah, it can feel like a lot, all these advancements hitting at once.
It really can. Things are moving fast. So our goal here is to kind of cut through the noise. We want to be your focused guide to the key devices, both the newer ones and the established workhorses for different aortic problems.
Think of this as the highlight reel from Rutherford's, pulling out the must-know info on these endovascular tools. We're aiming for clarity on what's out there now and what's coming down the pike.
Yep. Our mission is simple. Shed light on the big innovations. What are these devices for? What makes them better or different? And ultimately, how are they changing patient care, whether it's in the chest, the belly, or down in the pelvis?
Okay, let's start at the top then. The aortic arch and the thoracic aorta, the part in the chest. The standard thoracic endografts.
Well, the GoreTag device was kind of the pioneer in the U.S., wasn't it?
Well,
Approved way back in 2005.
It absolutely was. The first one commercially available stateside. And yeah, it's seen some important updates.
Like the C-Tag.
Exactly. First the conformable C-Tag, and now the C-Tag with active control, the C-Tag AC. Like Gore's other grafts, it's EPTFE, that expanded plastic material with a nitinol frame, delivered through an external sheath.
And that active control, what's the deal with that?
That's the interesting bit. It lets the surgeon partially deploy the graft, then actually steer the top end. It sounds minor, but in aortas with tricky angles, it really helps get a better fit, a better seal.
So more precision, less chance of leaks at the top. That's the goal. It helps conform to that angulated anatomy. Early experience suggests it does improve accuracy, especially in those tougher cases.
Makes sense. Now, Medtronic, they also updated their thoracic graft, right? The Valiant Navian. I heard it's got a lower profile.
It does, yeah. Lower profile delivery system compared to the older Valiant. We're talking 18 to 22 French outer diameter.
And lower French size means?
Generally a smaller system, which can mean, less invasive access for the patient. The Navian also comes with or without that proximal bare metal stent. They call them free flow or covered seal. The graft itself is woven polyester, nitinol stents on the outside.
And the trial data looked good.
Very good, actually.
Yeah.
Their pivotal trial reported 0 access or deployment failures, even in patients with really tortuous, twisty vessels. And importantly, a low rate of type 1A endoleaks, those top seal leaks, at 30 days.
0 failures in tricky vessels is impressive. And I think I read they have some really short lengths available too.
They do, down to just 52 millimeters in some sizes. That can be useful for specific situations, maybe a large diameter aorta, but only needing a short segment treated.
Right. But we should also mention, wasn't there a recall issue with the original Valiant?
Yes, that's crucial context. The original Valiant had a significant FDA class, I recall. It was due to stent fractures, leading to type 3 endoleaks, leaks through the graft fabric itself.
Ooh.
Yeah. It really drives home why that post-market surveillance, monitoring these devices after approval, is so incredibly important.
Absolutely. Can't just approve and forget. Okay, what about Cook Medical? They've got the Zenith Alpha device for the thorax.
They do. The Zenith Alpha stands out for a couple of things. One, it's very low profile, 18 French OD for the smaller sizes. And two, it's designed for delivery without an external sheath.
Sheathless delivery, okay.
Yeah, it's also woven polyester, self-expanding nitinol stents. Their pivotal trial showed high technical success getting it placed correctly. And the one-year follow-up data was strong, like 95% freedom from all-cause mortality, 99% freedom from aortic-related mortality. Pretty good numbers.
Sounds solid. And Turumo Aortic, they have the Relay series.
That's right. They've got the Relay Plus, which has shown good clinical results, but maybe a bit of a larger profile delivery system. So they're working on the Relay Pro.
Aiming for a lower profile.
Exactly. Lowering the profile while keeping features like the flexible inner sheath for placement accuracy. It'll also come in bare or non-bare stent options at the top. It's currently in clinical trials for various aortic injuries, dissections, aneurysms, that sort of thing.
Got it. And briefly, there's one more mention, GoTag. Not available here yet.
Right, the GoTag eVita Thoracic 3G.
Yeah.
Available outside the U.S., it has options for bare or covered spring stents, different configurations, and a unique stepwise release mechanism for deployment control. CryoLife acquired GoreTag, and they have plans to bring it to the U.S. market eventually.
Okay, so a good range of options for the thoracic aorta itself. But the aortic arch, where those critical branches to the brain and arms come off, that's a whole different level of complexity, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Open surgery on the arch is major, major stuff. Median sternotomy, opening the chest down the middle, or thoracotomy on the side, often needs cardiopulmonary bypass, cooling the patient way down, hypothermic circulatory arrest. Huge undertaking.
Wow. So doctors have been trying less invasive approaches.
Definitely. Hybrid techniques are more common now to reduce that risk.
Right.
Things like the frozen elephant trunk procedure, or doing surgical bypasses to reroute the blood flow to the arch vessels first, then putting in a standard thoracic endograft, a TVAR.
Trying to minimize the open part.
Exactly, yeah. There were also some less common totally endovascular approaches, like using parallel grafts side by side, or using lasers inside the vessel to create openings in a standard graft that's in situ fenestration. But these have their own limitations, especially long-term durability concerns.
So the real holy grail is devices specifically designed with branches for the arch.
That's where the development is focused now, yes. Dedicated branch devices. They're still mostly investigational, but that's the future we're looking towards for potentially less invasive, durable arch repairs.
Okay, let's look at those. Starting with single branch designs. Gore's got one, the TBE.
Right, the Gore Thoracic Branch Endoprosthesis, or TBE, it builds on their C-Tag platform, has one side branch, designed mainly for treating aneurysms in zone 2 of the arch that involves the left subclavian artery origin. Or you could use it more proximally if you combine it with surgical debranching of the other vessels.
And how does it work?
It's EPTFE, nitinol frame, like the C-Tag. The side branch connects via an internal portal oriented downwards, so you access it retrograde, meaning up from the groin artery.
And the early results?
Very promising from the early feasibility trial. They reported 100% technical success in those zone 2 aneurysms. Crucially, no strokes or other cerebrovascular issues. And 100% side branch patency. The branch stayed open at 1 month.
Sounds good. So it's moving forward.
Yep, it's progressed into its pivotal trial phase now.
Okay. Medtronic also had a single branch concept, the Valiant Navian LSA, formerly Mona LSA.
Yes, the Mona LSA was based on the older Valiant TVAR. Had this interesting, flexible external cuff, kind of volcano-shaped, for the side branch. Early feasibility results were also positive, 100% technical success, no deaths around surgery, no branch occlusions. But they were redesigning it onto the newer Valiant Navian platform, and then the base Navian device had that FDA recall we mentioned earlier. So that put the brakes on the Navian LSA development. Its future is pretty uncertain right now.
Right, that's unfortunate. Okay, what about devices with multiple branches? That sounds like it could tackle more proximal arch problems closer to the heart.
Exactly. That's the idea, treat zones close to the heart, potentially reducing or even eliminating the need for those surgical bypasses altogether. Turumo has the Relay dual branch arch system.
Dual branch, okay.
Yeah, 2 internal branches. These point antegrade in the direction of blood flow. So the device itself is delivered retrograde up from the femoral artery based on their Relay thoracic platform.
How's that one performed in studies?
The biggest experience reported is from an Italian registry, the TRIUMPH registry. In 24 high-risk patients, they got 100% technical success, no type I or 3 endoleaks. That's the good news.
But there's always a but in complex arch work, it seems.
Well, yeah. They also reported significant rates of in-hospital mortality and cerebrovascular complications like stroke. Another smaller study from the Netherlands raised similar concerns about perioperative stroke mortality. And the Italian registry even noted a couple of cases of retrograde type A dissection, a tear extending back towards the heart. Very serious.
Yikes. It really underscores how tricky the arch is. Any other multi-branch players?
Cook Medical has their arch branch device. This one is designed to be fully customizable. You can get 1, 2, or 3 side branches, specifically positioned based on the patient's anatomy. A 2-branch setup is most common.
Customizable sounds good, but complex. How has it done?
The largest published experience used double-branch grafts, often with an extra surgical bypass between the carotid and subclavian arteries. They reported, reasonable technical success and complication rates. And importantly, even though some grafts landed in the ascending aorta really close to the heart, they didn't see any of those retrograde type A dissections or cardiac injuries.
That's a key positive finding. Okay, let's shift gears and move down the aorta, thoraco-abdominal area. Now we're talking about branches supplying the gut, kidneys, even more complex devices needed here, I assume.
Definitely. Keeping blood flow to the visceral organs, kidneys, liver, intestines is paramount. So when you have extensive thoracoabdominal aneurysms, TAAAs, or type B dissections extending down there, you need sophisticated tech. We're diving into fenestrated branch technology now.
Right. And the Cook Zenith fenestrated, the ZFEO, and that's been around in the U.S. for a while, since 2012.
That's correct. It's currently the only commercially available fenestrated graft in the U.S. The key thing is it's custom made.
Custom. How does that work?
Based on detailed scans of the patient's aorta, they create specific openings, fenestrations, or scallops in the graft fabric. These line up precisely with the patient's visceral arteries. So the graft seals above and below the aneurysm, but blood keeps flowing through those holes to the organs.
Clever. Are there limits?
Yeah, there are limitations on configuration, usually a max of 3 fenestrations or scallops. So it's mainly indicated for infrarenal aneurysms below the kidneys, but where that sealing zone, the neck, is really short.
And it works well for that.
Yes. Pivotal trials and lots of post-approval use show it's safe, useful, and durable for those short neck and also juxtarenal aneurysms right next to the renals. And Cook is working on the ZFE Plus.
Plus, more fenestrations.
Exactly. A 4-vessel option aiming for para and suprarenal aneurysms alongside or above the kidneys. That one's currently in pivotal trials.
Okay, so ZFN is custom. Are there any fenestrated options available off the shelf, maybe in Europe?
Yes, the Anaconda fenestrated device is available in Europe. It's a bit different. The fenestrations are in an unsupported part of the graft fabric.
What's the advantage of that?
It gives more design flexibility, avoids stent struts potentially interfering with the branch vessel connection. Also, a key feature of Anaconda is you can reposition it even after it's fully deployed. Helps get that alignment just right.
And the results?
Midterm outcomes show pretty high target vessel patency. The branches stay open. Though some studies reported a rate of type 1A endoleaks, but they often seem to resolve spontaneously.
Now, with custom devices like ZFAN, I imagine the wait time could be an issue, especially if things are urgent.
That's a huge point. Protracted wait times for custom devices are a major limitation in urgent or emergent situations. It can take weeks.
So that leads to off-the-shelf solutions. Cook has the P branch?
Yes, the Zenith Pivot branch, or P branch, an off-the-shelf option designed for those juxta and pararenal aneurysms. It has a scallop for the celiac artery, a reinforced fenestration for the SMA, superior mesenteric artery, and then the renal fenestrations are designed to pivot.
Pivot.
To accommodate the natural variation in where people's renal arteries come off the aorta. It makes one design fit more anatomies. They estimate it can treat maybe 55% to 72% of patients who'd otherwise need a custom graft.
That's a big chunk. How did the trial go?
Pretty well. After the initial learning curve cases, no technical failures reported, no patients needing dialysis or having mesenteric ischemia, which is great. But a fair number did need secondary procedures later, mostly for issues with the bridging stents going into the branches.
Okay, so enrollment's done for PBLADGE.
Yep, completed enrollment waiting for FDA submission.
Now, what about those really extensive TAAAs, covering long segments, multiple branches? Are there off-the-shelf branched grafts for those?
Yes, development is pushing there too. Cook Medical has their custom branched and fenestrated grafts, but also an off-the-shelf T-branch. It's got 4 branches, available in Europe and Canada, but still needs an IDE investigational device exemption for use in the U.S. outside of trials.
And how are those performing?
There's a U.S. research consortium using these under IDEs. They published on 240 patients with complex TAAAs. High success treating the target vessels. Excellent freedom from aortic-related death and good target vessel patency at 2 years. But it's important to remember these were done by high-volume experts. These are complex procedures.
Understood. And Jedic Real Life, they have branch options outside the U.S. too.
Correct. They have a custom program, Extra, and an off-the-shelf one called Inside, which has the CE mark in Europe. Inside has pre-wired antegrade branches, aiming to simplify connection. They think their standard configuration could treat around 70% of TAAA patients.
And the newest player in off-the-shelf branch grafts for the U.S. market, potentially, Gore TBE.
Yes, the Gore Thoracoabdominal Branched Excluder, TAA. That's a really novel off-the-shelf design. 4 branches, all parallel and pointing antegrade. 2 upper ones for celiac SMA, 2 lower for the renals. He uses Gore's Viabond VBX balloon expandable stent grafts for bridging into the target vessels.
And initial results.
Very promising from the early feasibility study. 0 deaths, ruptures, dialysis, conversions, or spinal cord injuries reported in that initial cohort. TMBE is now actively enrolling in its multi-center pivotal trial. That's one to watch.
Definitely. Okay, let's pivot slightly to aortic dissection systems. How does Endotech help when the aorta layers tear?
Right, for extensive type B dissections involving those visceral segments, one approach has been the petticoat technique.
Petticoat.
Yeah, provisional extension to induce complete attachment. You put a standard T-VAR up top to cover the main entry tear. Then, distally, you deploy an open-cell stent one with big gaps in the true lumen. The idea is to prop open the true lumen and allow flow to the visceral branches through the stent struts.
Okay. Are there dedicated dissection systems now?
Yes, the FDA approved the Cook Zenith Dissection Endovascular System. Its components are based on their TX2 thoracic graft. Comes in different sizes.
The data.
The Stable 1 trial looked at it in acute and subacute type B dissections. 5-year data showed respectable freedom from all-cause and dissection-related death. Also, significant freedom from needing reintervention, suggesting it helps promote positive aortic remodeling, the aorta healing, and reshaping over time.
You could see dedicated tools for that, too. Okay, let's move down again. Abdominal aorta, infrarenal aneurysms below the kidneys, EVAR, endovascular aneurysm repair. This is pretty standard stuff now, right? Been around since the 90s.
It has, yeah. It's become the dominant way to treat infrarenal AAAs. But the devices continue to evolve.
So what are the mainstays in the U.S. currently? Cook Zenith.
Yep, the Cook Zenith platform.
Yep.
Introduced back in '03. The current version is Zenith Flex. It's modular bifurcated main body, separate iliac limbs, woven Dacron graft, stainless steel Z stents, and it has that suprarenal stent with barbs that anchor just above the main seal zone.
Modular means pieces assembled inside.
Exactly. And Zenith Flex offers variable length main bodies for better customization. Long-term data shows its very durable low rates of aneurysm-related death, endoleaks, reinterventions. They also have Zenith Alpha abdominal in Europe, lower profile, coming to U.S. trials soon.
Medtronic's Endurant is another big one.
Huge. Endurant Second and eyes are probably the most widely used EVR systems globally. Also modular polyester graft, nitinol stents, suprarenal stent for fixation.
And the results.
The GAGE registry followed thousands of patients. 5-year results are excellent high freedom from type IA endoleak and aneurysm-related mortality. Endurant also has an indication for shorter aortic necks down to 10 millimeters, and even shorter down to 4 millimeter if you use it with their HelioFX endo anchors.
Endo anchors, like little screws.
Kind of, yeah. Tiny anchors deployed through the graft into the aortic wall for extra grip. Studies show using them in those challenging short necks leads to low type 1A leak rates and fewer proximal reinterventions.
Interesting. Gore excluder, that one seals differently, right? Infrarenally.
That's its key feature. It achieves both seal and fixation below the renal arteries. Doesn't need to cross them. Comes as a 2- or 3-piece modular system. Nitinol stents, EPTFE graft material, delivered via a separate sheath, deployed with a ripcord.
Any recent updates?
Yes, they've added that active control mechanism, like in their thoracic device. Allows the surgeon to deflect the top of the main body during deployment. Helps conform to really angled necks. The conformable excluder with active control is in his pivotal trial now.
Turumo Aortic also joined the U.S. EVAR market with TREO.
They did, early 2020. TREO has some unique features, fixation barbs both infra and suprarenal. Also fixation points within the contralateral gate and iliac limbs, aiming to prevent components migrating or separating, uses a leave-behind sheath. It's still got somewhat limited market availability here, though.
And endologics, Ovation IX and AFX. These have had some ups and downs.
They certainly have. Ovation IX is modular, PTFE graft, uses polymer-filled sealing rings anchored by a big suprarenal stent, known for its initial ultra-low profile. But yeah, it had that big FDA class I recall in 2020 over polymer leakage concerns during implant. They've developed the Ovation Alto, which is awaiting FDA review.
And AFX sits on the bifurcation.
Right. Unique design sits right where the aorta splits. Has an internal endoskeleton frame, pre-cannulated gate. But the first gen, AFX1, had issues with fabric tears causing type II endoleaks. And unfortunately, there have been reports of similar concerns with the updated DuraPlay fabric in the second gen, AFX2.
Okay. And a couple others, Incraft, AorFix, less common.
Approved, but yeah, less widely distributed in the U.S. market.
What about outside the U.S. for standard EVA? Anything notable?
The big one that generated buzz and then concern was the Nelix Endovascular Sealing System, EVAS, also from Endologics.
Sealing? How did that work?
It used a double-barrel stent approach, but instead of sealing with graft fabric against the aorta, it filled the aneurysm sac around the stents with polymer and endobags.
Sounds different. How did it pan out?
Initial results looked okay, but longer-term data raised serious durability concerns. Higher rates of failure, aneurysm rupture, even aneurysm-specific death compared to standard EVR. Seemed related to the endobags migrating over time, causing leaks and sac expansion. So the future of EVS is very unclear right now.
Wow, quite a story there. And other standard grafts outside the U.S.?
Yeah, several others like Anaconda, Integra, Evita, Altura, more traditional designs available in Europe and elsewhere.
Okay, nearly there. Let's go down to the iliac arteries. You mentioned preserving flow to the internal iliacs is important. Why again?
Absolutely crucial, if possible. Keeping at least one internal iliac artery open helps prevent or reduce the risk of buttock claudication, that pain when walking sexual dysfunction, and pelvic ischemia, basically poor blood flow to the pelvic organs, things you really want to avoid for patient quality of life.
Makes sense. So how do surgeons achieve that during endo repair?
Well, one way is using parallel grafting, the sandwich technique. Put the main EVAR limb next to a separate covered stent going into the internal iliac. It works, can be effective.
But now there are dedicated devices.
Yes, iliac branch devices. And in the U.S., currently, the only one available is the Gore iliac branch endoprosthesis, the IBE.
How does the IDE work?
It's designed for common iliac aneurysms. It has a component that goes down the external iliac and an internal gate. You access that gate from the opposite side to bridge into the internal iliac artery, usually with a Viabon VBX stent graft.
And it connects to the main EVR graft.
Yes, its proximal end is designed to integrate with the Gore excluder main body. Interestingly, the IBE itself doesn't have fixation barbs.
And the results look good?
Very good from the pivotal trial. High patency rates for both external and internal iliac arteries at 2 years. Freedom from reintervention was also good. And importantly, no significant increase in buttock claudication or sexual dysfunction reported, even when the internal branch occasionally occluded.
That's reassuring. Are there other iliac branch options outside the U.S.?
Yes. Cook has the Zenith branch iliac endovascular graft. Similar idea, slightly different design. Often uses the atrium ICAST covered stent for the internal branch. That one's awaiting potential FDA approval here. And GoTag has the iliac branch system available in Europe, showing excellent early patency.
Okay, last category, non-traditional devices. The multi-layer flow modulator, MFM. Sounds intriguing. How does that work?
It's a totally different philosophy. Instead of excluding the aneurysm sac, the MFM uses multiple layers of braided self-expanding stents. The idea is you place it across the aneurysm, potentially even across branch vessels.
Doesn't block the branches.
The theory is the multiple layers redirect the main flow, reduce pressure and flow within the sac, but the porosity still allows blood flow into the side branches, potentially avoiding the need for fenestrations or branches.
Does it work? Reduce pressure?
Studies do show it significantly reduces pressure in the sac, but because it doesn't completely exclude the sac, there are ongoing concerns about rupture risk.
So the clinical results?
Have been a bit moderate, honestly. Some studies show significant rates of reintervention and even aneurysm rupture at 12 months. So the consensus right now is that these devices are still largely experimental and need a lot more study.
Got it. Still very much under investigation. Well, this has been incredibly comprehensive. We've covered a huge amount of ground from the arch all the way down. It's staggering how much innovation is happening in aortic endovascular repair.
It really is. The pace is relentless. Constant improvements in device profiles, materials, deployment techniques. It's a very dynamic field.
Which means for the physicians doing this work, staying current is absolutely vital, isn't it? You've got to follow the research, the conferences, the industry news.
No question about it. Things change quickly, you blink, and there's a new device or a major trial result out.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on. With all this amazing, minimally invasive technology advancing so fast, what do you see as the big challenges or maybe opportunities ahead? Specifically in making sure these sophisticated tools actually get to and benefit all the patients who could use them?
That's a great question. Access, training, cost effectiveness, proving long-term durability. Lots to think about there. How do we ensure these innovations translate into widespread, equitable patient benefit? Definitely something worth pondering.